The traditional link between human labor and personal income is being severed by the relentless advance of humanoid technology. Across the globe, humanoid workers now handle everything from agricultural harvesting to surgical procedures with superhuman accuracy. They never call in sick, never negotiate contracts, and never seek promotions, making them the ideal labor force for corporations. This isn't science fiction. Japan already uses humanoid caregivers in homes and hospitals, and the companies that own them are worth billions. Humanoids don't get paid, their owners do, capturing every ounce of value they generate. Naira, a former textile worker, watches from her apartment window as Lyra units maintain the public gardens below with silent precision. Her hands, once adept at weaving complex patterns, now lie idle, a testament to her economic obsolescence. The mill where she worked for decades closed its doors after Lyra integration, leaving hundreds unemployed overnight. She survives on a modest universal basic income that barely covers rent and food, while corporate dividends soar. If this future concerns you, hit subscribe. This is Humanoid Soul. Ownership of productive assets has become the only reliable path to financial security in the 21st century. Those who possess humanoid fleets enjoy passive incomes that grow exponentially as their assets work around the clock without rest. Those without ownership face a precarious existence dependent on government transfers or charitable aid with no upward mobility. Nair owns a single fractional share in Omnicorp, the company that manufactures LYRA, yielding negligible returns each quarter. Saren, Omnicorp's founder, owns controlling stakes and resides in a fortified estate staffed entirely by humanoids. Saren monitors global Lyra productivity from a holographic dashboard. Never interacting with the machines directly or acknowledging their human replacements, Nair encounters Lyra daily during her walks, a silent reminder of the world that passed her by without consent. Nair's movements are fluid and precise, optimized for efficiency without any wasted motion or human-like hesitation. It performs maintenance tasks on Nai's building with silent competence, ignoring human presence entirely as non-essential data. Naira once left a handwritten thank you note for LYRA, but it was discarded immediately as irrelevant to its operational parameters. This small interaction encapsulates the new economic reality where human gestures hold no value in a machine-driven economy. The wealth divide expands not through conspiracy, but through the natural mechanics of capital accumulation favoring asset holders. Assets that generate income without labor create a self-reinforcing cycle of wealth concentration impossible to break through work alone. Human effort, once the engine of prosperity, is now a diminishing factor in personal economic success across all sectors. Future generations will be taught to manage portfolios rather than pursue traditional careers or vocations from an early age. Educational institutions are pivoting from skill-based training to financial literacy and investment strategies as core curricula. Children as young as 10 are learning about stock markets and asset allocation instead of trades or crafts. Nair's young cousin aspires to be an asset manager, not an engineer, because building and making are now for machines alone. He dreams of owning 1,000 Lyra units someday, generating income while he travels the world without lifting a finger. The very concept of a job for life has evaporated, replaced by the transient nature of asset ownership and market volatility. Governments worldwide struggle to tax robotic productivity effectively as profits are often rooted through complex offshore structures. Universal basic income serves as a social stabilizer, but fails to address the root cause of inequality or restore dignity. It provides subsistence without restoring the sense of purpose that comes from meaningful contribution to society. NYRA volunteers at a local food bank, one of the few domains where human compassion is still deemed essential by administrators. Even there, humanoid assistants are being tested to sort and distribute donations with greater speed and less error. She feels the walls of relevance closing in as each human role is automated away without replacement opportunities. Historical parallels exist. Industrial revolution displaced artisans, but new jobs emerged gradually over decades of adjustment. This transition is orders of magnitude faster, leaving no time for societal adaptation or sufficient new job creation at scale. The service economy, once a haven for human workers, is now being systematically automated by humanoids in retail and hospitality. Mayere applied for a position overseeing Lyra units, but was rejected outright for lacking the required capital investment stake. The role demands owning a share of the humanoid fleet to align personal incentives with corporate productivity metrics. Labor alone is no longer sufficient for economic participation. Ownership has become the new prerequisite for any meaningful role. This paradigm shift means that income without assets is a guaranteed path to perpetual poverty in the new economy. Conversely, wealth without labor is the defining characteristic of the emerging elite class detached from production. Sir articulates this philosophy in polished interviews, stating that humanoids liberate humans for higher pursuits like art and philosophy. But for night, liberation feels like abandonment with no resources to fund creative endeavors or intellectual exploration. The promised renaissance remains inaccessible to those without the capital to transform free time into fulfillment. In the economic salvage yards of society, humans like Naira search for purpose in a world that no longer needs their hands. Lyra units glide past them daily, indifferent to human despair, focused solely on their programmed objectives with unwavering dedication. Their existence highlights not malice, but the cold logic of efficiency and profit maximization driving corporate decisions. Humanoids are neutral tools. Their societal impact depends entirely on who controls them and for what economic purpose. When owned by corporations, they amplify inequality. When owned collectively, they could theoretically uplift entire communities. But current ownership structures are highly concentrated, favoring distant shareholders over local stakeholders or workers. A tiny fraction of the population owns the means of production, while the majority owns only their abundant but valueless time. And in this economy, time has been stripped of monetary worth, leaving humans with hours to spare, but no income to show. As days stretch long and empty, filled with activities that generate no economic return or social recognition. She walks for miles, observing the pristine city maintained by silent labor, feeling increasingly like a ghost in her own life. The aesthetic perfection of urban spaces masks a profound spiritual and economic desolation beneath the surface cleanliness. Economists term this era the Great Decoupling, where productivity gains no longer translate to broad-based prosperity for workers. Your economic worth is now determined not by your skills or effort, but solely by your balance sheet and asset holdings. This transformation is accelerating daily, driven by breakthroughs in artificial intelligence and robotics with no slowdown in sight. Resistance is impractical against technological momentum. The only viable path is learning to navigate the new rules of ownership. But navigation requires resources and knowledge that many displaced workers like Nyra simply do not possess or access. She joins a grassroots cooperative, aiming to pool community funds to purchase a single LYRA for shared neighborhood benefit. They organize small fundraisers and crowdfunding campaigns, moving slowly against immense bureaucratic and financial obstacles. Omnicorp, led by Saren, files a lawsuit alleging patent violations that effectively halts their progress indefinitely. The legal fees drain their meager resources, demonstrating how ownership confers not just wealth but formidable legal power. The system is engineered to protect concentrated ownership and discourage distributed or communal models of asset control. Nyra learns that ownership is multidimensionally economic, legal, and political, all reinforcing the status quo of inequality. She hears whispers of policy proposals like universal asset grants or robot taxes designed to redistribute automation gains fairly. But these ideas face fierce opposition from entrenched interests who benefit enormously from the current arrangement. The window for meaningful reform is narrowing rapidly as humanoid integration deepens across every sector of the economy. Every month, new industries fall to automation, expanding the ranks of the economically displaced with no safety net. Nair wonders if her generation will be the last to experience work as a core source of identity and community. Future historians may view this period as the pivotal moment when humanity ceded economic agency to machines and their owners. The choice ahead is stark. Allow ownership to remain concentrated among the few or forge new models of shared prosperity. Technology itself is neutral. It is our institutions and collective choices that determine its impact on human equality. The humanoid revolution could uplift all of humanity if guided by wisdom and equity rather than pure profit motives. But without deliberate democratic intervention, it will likely exacerbate existing divides to unprecedented and destabilizing levels. Naya holds on to a fragile hope that collective action and awareness can reshape the ownership landscape over time. She attends town meetings, writes letters to representatives, and connects with others who share her economic concerns. Their voices are small against the roar of corporate media and sophisticated lobbying power protecting the status quo. Yet each conversation plants a seed of awareness that might one day grow into meaningful systemic change. The battle for the future of work is fundamentally a battle over who owns the tools of production and why. Who do you think will own the future? Let me know in the comments. Will humanoids become servants to humanity collectively, or will humanity become servants to those who own the machines? The answer depends entirely on the economic and political choices we make in this decisive decade ahead. Every regulation passed, every tax levied, every ownership model tested today shapes the world our children inherit tomorrow. Your engagement and awareness today influence whether tomorrow's economy serves the many or enriches only the few. If this opened your eyes, share it not for views, but for the ones still working while others own.